Meghan Markle has admitted she apologized to Paris Hilton for judging her based on her looks and success after learning about her trauma on her podcast. Meghan, 41, featured the heiress, 41, as her latest guest for her Archetypes Spotify podcast in an episode entitled Breaking Down The Bimbo. Speaking about the episode, Meghan said she was embarrassed to admit she had judged Paris beforehand and had to find a way to forgive her because she didn't grow up pretty herself. I didn't grow up pretty. Meghan Markle has admitted she apologized to Paris Hilton for judging her based on her public image after learning about her trauma on her podcast. Childhood, Paris is pictured left and Meghan is pictured right. Speaking to Variety, Meghan said it was the most challenging interview she has done so far for her podcast and said she was very nervous beforehand. I spoke to Paris Hilton last week. I told her at the beginning that I was the most nervous about her interview, she explained. I was embarrassed to admit it, but I've had a judgment about her that's based on everything I've seen, and I don't like to come from a place of judgment. But I also didn't grow up pretty. Meghan said she grew up as the smart one and was envious of Paris and judged her based on her public image, before learning about the trauma in her life. Getting to know each other. Meghan, 41, featured the heiress, 41, as the latest guest for her Archetypes Spotify podcast in an episode entitled Breaking Down The Bimbo. Younger years, Meghan, pictured in 2006, left, and 2009, right, said she grew up as the smart one not the pretty one and was envious and judgmental of Paris. The wife of Prince Harry admitted that she ended up apologizing to the media personality for judging her and buying into her public persona before meeting her. She said, I grew up as the smart one. So much of what I ended up thinking about, when I thought about Paris, was envy and judgment, two of the most dangerous things. But then you hear about her trauma and her life and her buying into this persona. Ultimately, I told her, I am really sorry that I judged you. I wanted her to be safe and comfortable. I told her I wasn't looking for a gotcha moment. I want a got you moment, where we get you. Judgment. But speaking about the interview, Meghan admitted she had judged Paris beforehand and had to find a way to forgive her because she didn't grow up pretty herself. Public image. On the podcast, Paris, pictured in 2001, revealed she built her Barbie doll persona as a way to escape her traumatic teenage years at a Utah boarding school. On the podcast, Paris revealed she built her Barbie doll persona as a way to escape her traumatic teenage years at a Utah boarding school. Meghan said she wanted listeners to think about whether they could forgive Paris after learning about how she was misrepresented and see a more humanized side to her. That episode is not framed as a defense of Paris, it's the humanization of her. And that's true for everybody, she said. I don't care what situation you're in. If a 16-year-old boy or girl, or a woman in the workplace, feels objectified or dehumanized because their character is misrepresented, I hope everyone listening with an open mind could come away thinking, could I just actually consider for a second that there's a person there? Public image. Meghan said she grew up as the smart one and was envious of Paris and judged her based on her looks and success, before learning about the trauma in her life. I've done a lot of internal work. I am from California, it's in the water, and whether you're exercising or meditating, you're sometimes asked to picture a person that makes you angry. You think about them, you get it all out, and then you're asked to think about them as a 6-year-old child. That's how I contextually approach that. Paris has alleged that she was verbally, mentally and physically abused during her 2 years at Provo Canyon School after being sent to the institution by her parents when she was a rebellious teen. Speaking to Meghan about those years, Paris called it the most painful and horrific experience of my life, explaining how it really just took away my childhood. Hard times. Paris has alleged that she was verbally, mentally and physically abused during her 2 years at Provo Canyon School. She is pictured in 2001. Iconic. Paris. It was at the age of 22 when she landed her reality show The Simple Life alongside her best friend Nicole Richie that her Barbie doll persona went into full force. She said that the only thing that kept her going during that time was thinking about who she was going to be when she left. I just promising myself and saying, I am going to work so hard and become so successful that no one will ever be able to control me ever again. And in there, I started kind of building this fantasy life and this kind of Barbie doll character, she continued. I guess, just to not think about pain and just to think about, oh, unicorns and butterflies and Barbie dolls and pink and sparkles. She went on to explain that it was at the age of 22 when she landed her iconic reality show The Simple Life alongside her best friend Nicole Richie that the persona went into full force. opening up, but she never expected the show and therefore her persona to last, pointing out that she thought the simple life would only last one season. The producers just said, we want Nicole to be the troublemaker in Paris. We want you to be the rich dumb blonde, and that's when I started really playing into that character. During that time it was encouraged to be dumb and bubbly. I look at it now and I am I think it's so much cooler to be smart and intelligent, but back then it was almost like they wanted. She added that the character was also a mask to protect herself from the media attention the show bought her, but she never expected the show and therefore her persona to last, pointing out that she thought the simple life would only last one season, and not the 5 it went on to air. Nerves. Meghan began her chat with Paris by telling listeners that she was nervous about interviewing Paris because she'd had a judgment about the socialite. I almost got stuck and lost in the character, and at some point it was like lines got blurred and it was like I forgot who I was, she said. And it makes me sad because I used to be such a free spirit and I was not so closed off, and I feel like with just so many things that have happened to me over the years I just closed off in ways in my mind, and I wish that it didn't happen. Going through trauma in life really affects you, the Duchess replied. I think it's so sad you don't even get the opportunity. It makes me emotional even thinking about it. You don't get the opportunity to start to think about the woman you want to be with a blank slate. So then you come out into the world and they cast you in this thing that you end up feeling trapped. Paris said that with the release of her recent documentary This Is Paris and her advocacy work, people are finally seeing the other side. I love being underestimated.